Hello, Gandu. Wait, something isn't right. Oh, no. Let me out, Hello, Dendoomblers, and welcome to What? Death Must Die. There we go. A game where you vampire the Hades, or survive the two. Either way, the concept is simple. Choose a character, go in the water, simp, get absolutely dumpstered, repeat. The game is very, very simple. Hell, you can play with one hand, so you can use the other hand to file taxes, or subscribe to this channel, and nothing else. So, to start off, let's address the insanely hot deities in the room. All of these are gods, and they are the main source of your damage and abilities. There's 7 types of blessings that the gods can give, and they all work differently. These 2 are more replacements, as you can only have 1 attack and 1 dash boon. Then there's strikes, which are all the abilities that trigger an attack hit. Some work on number of attacks, and others on chance. Then we got cast, which are all the cooldown based abilities. Most cooldown based abilities. Because then we have powers, which are cast's little brother. Since powers are just the miscellaneous category, it contains a lot of different stuff. Then we have summons, which let you summon an army composed mainly of animals to fight for you. The final category is passive, which are just the blessings that don't give you new powers and just buff you. Now let's talk about the gods one by one. Oh, and of course they will be rated on what is clearly the most important metric for the devs: how insanely hot they are. Starting with Summer, the goddess of fire. All her blessings are unsurprisingly all about setting everything on fire, in a variety of ways, like basic flame attack, or the flame breath famously used by me in 894 while fighting for Guy III. Either way, let's place her on the tier list. Next up, Winter, goddess of the cold. Now her whole thing is freezing and chilling enemies. When an enemy has enough cold stacks, they become frozen and can't move for a little while. She gives you a lot of tools to help with it, like wolves, the solution to global warming, and turning you into Frozone. Then we have the god of conquest, Crom, but I'm gonna treat him like the god of war because that's clearly what he is. His blessings are all about rapturing enemies and knockback, with things like blade blades and the most common AoE attack for any melee ever. Now clearly this man is hot. Why else would he not have a shirt on? Next up we have... That's odd. The next one is called Goth Mummy? Ah no, that's the colloquial name. She is called Mort, and she's the rebellious daughter of death, here to give you death-themed powers to use against death. Her whole thing is cursing people with abilities like Spooky Ghost and regular ravens, and then using her other abilities to cash in the curse damage. Well, corpses are cold, so... Then we have the odd one out, the Moirai, which have been reimagined as cat girls because, of course. They function differently from all the other gods. You see, normally you can only have 3 gods blessing you at a time, but the Moirai don't count, so you can always get their blessings. However, all their blessings are passives that mostly just buff you, and usually not even by a big margin. Now, since they are all really close together, and it's almost summer, they gotta be very hot. Next up, Lei Gong, the god of lightning, who is literally just along for the lols, as he has no reason to be against death. His abilities are mostly about move speed and cooldowns, but his theme isn't super noticeable, with abilities like the American Coastal Experience and Suns. Now storms are cold, so... Then we have Lady Justice, goddess of paladins in D&D, with blessings that smite your enemies and... No. Now she probably has a ton of lights on her, so she's gotta be hot. Then we have Time, who isn't stated to be the god of time, but he clearly is. His blessings are mainly about the little gems that you consume to level up, but his most fun blessing are these little missiles, which you can go pretty nuts with. And he also has the slow passage of time, eroding everything you love and hold dear, as an ability to kill your enemies slowly. Now, this is controversial, but I'm gonna put him in cold. And then we have the final one. Nin, the goddess of earth, who is about stunning and attack range with moves like building a pillar through you and JoJo's bizarre rock venture. Now, moving on to the characters. Currently, there are 6. Each have different skill trees and amounts of blessings of each category they can use. For example, the knight only has 2 cast slots, while the sorceress has 4. Each character starts with different slot amounts, attacks, and stats. Speaking of the knight, he is the starting character, and so he has had the unfortunate task of being the introduction character, making him the most white bread boring one. His attack is a basic swing in front of him, and the only remarkable thing about him is a slight inclination towards powers, which makes him by far the least interesting one to play. Especially when you unlock the E-Girl so quickly after. The E-Girl, aka Sorceress, is the first range character of the game, and she is a way more interesting character. Not only because she uses emotes while speaking, but also because she can build into a ton of different possible things, having bonuses for summons, regular attacks, dashes, and casts in her skill tree. And of course, she has her mean girl love interest, the assassin, who has the fastest base attack, and her skill tree lets her go invisible to guarantee a crit on the next enemy she hits. Next we have Kront, the barbarian, who is the embodiment of literally every D&D barbarian ever. His attacks have sort of a combo where he hits in front of him, then does a rising slash and then spins around. And to really break new ground, his main build is a rage mechanic which activates when taking damage. He still is one of my favorite characters, the other being the warrior. The warrior shits all over the knight by having a better swing attack than he does and being more interesting, because you can build her into a status effect focused build, or a summon one with her pet, or my personal favorite, luck and strikes. Luck improves the chance of all abilities that trigger on chance, so by increasing it as much as possible and using the skill that gives more projectiles, you can create this. And finally, we have the last character to have been added, the ranger, who is unsurprisingly a ranged character, and his specialty is buffing up either his arrows, casts, or movement. Then we have items, the most important part of your character, because if you are going to face death, you better be dressed right, with a metric ton of golden jewels on you. There's 5 rarities and a novelty for event items. The rarities are the classic ultra trash, okay, and good. All of these you will find dropped from enemies or in the shop, where you will offload all the trash items after a successful run. With the new update, they added tiers to items, so now the first level drops tier 1 items and the second level tier 2, which means there's absolutely no reason to go back to the first level because the newer level has better items. To make finding good gear easier and to add more challenge, once you beat the level you can add modifiers, like giving enemies aim hacks or slowing you down when attacking. Now speaking of enemies, let's have a look at them. We have such variety as skeleton with a sword, skeleton with a bow, skeleton with armor on, and cat girl lasers. They really just said fuck it in the second map and made the green goblin and insect girls who make sus noises when you kill them. The final bit of gameplay you need to know about are the encounters, aka all the random shit that there is on the map, and the only reason to not stand still and let the game play itself. Most of them will give you the option to pick between different buffs, maybe with different costs. Others punch you in the balls, step all over your Jordans, and steal your wallet, because you can't stop gambling. Now the story. There it is. That's all the story that the game has right now. Pretty much. Because this game is in early access, emphasis on the early. But seeing as they have been making more significant updates than Payday 3 has received in its entire existence, the game will probably only improve and add more content instead of regress and beg for forgiveness. Now, if you excuse me, I have a date with a special person. Hey girl, are you an intergalactic cannon? Because, I wanna fire you at my enemies. Damn it, I was trying to date her for my insurance fraud. I guess I will make do without. Either way, this game gets a 34 out of 10, and you know exactly why. Now like and subscribe, otherwise I will dirty your glasses every 5.6 days for the next 3.78 years.